Now is Solutionaries.
Hey, welcome back to Solutionaries. I'm Louis Bold, and Solutionaries focuses on the issues we all face and the people working to find solutions for those problems. In today's episode, we're talking about dangerous roads and how to make them safer. But first, we're focusing on an issue that has hit Central Florida especially hard. I'm talking about addiction. It is impacting everyone from kids to college students and people behind bars. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration says addiction happens gradually, but it always begins with experimentation. And the victims are not just those who are using. Many times, it's also their children forced to deal with the fallout. Eric Von Anken is investigating the problem from several angles, starting with what's being done to help some of the youngest victims.
This is just another Wednesday for Melissa Bowen.
It's all about the kids.
Picking up toys, loading up the toys, and then dropping off the toys at one of the collection spots.
We have flashlight books.
In this case, Gabby's Pizza in Port Orange.
And it's definitely without the businesses in the community helping us, we would not be possible to help all the children in the community.
But as much as this has become routine, Melissa doesn't forget for a second how special this is for the children getting the gifts.
This is a 11-year-old girl. Inside, you'll find her 5 wishes, along with some of her favorite things.
Or why she does it, not just before Christmas, but long after, and just about every other day of the year.
It began in 2017 in Ohio when the founder's daughter passed away from an overdose. She left behind 3 sons, and the grandmother couldn't find any resources for the son. So she founded Project Noel, and what we do is we focus on the children that have been affected by addiction by a parent or caregiver. We provide emergency clothing and diapers for displaced children that have been taken away and put into foster care.
It's a year-round effort for Melissa.
We also supply back-to-school haircuts, supplies, Easter, Christmas.
As the head of Project Noel for Flagler and Volusia counties, she brought the nonprofit to Central Florida because she has seen how the children affected by addiction suffer.
In my past, I went through addiction, and I have many family members that have went through addiction, and to watch the impact that the children have when they're dealing with a parent or caregiver's addiction is so impactful, and to be able to make a difference in that was something that set my heart up.
And it's not just gifts. Melissa, through Project Noel, tells us she's starting peer groups for children affected by addiction and for grandparents who have now ended up as caretakers because of addiction. The groups are for the kids and the grandparents to just be around others who have also been affected like them.
Like we said, addiction impacts people in every part of our community, including students at the University of Central Florida. And Solutionaries there are making sure young adults on campus are ready to face the problem head on.
Here you go, buddy. Keep breathing, man.
This young man would have very likely died on the UCF campus last year if not for his friends calling for help. UCF police gave us his body camera video showing officers commending the friends for recognizing the man was in trouble and doing something about it.
Ask questions and then call 911 and take action.
What these UCF students are learning today is how to recognize somebody's in trouble and what to do about it.
Maybe say that there's someone in danger and you feel like you need to intervene, but you can't do it alone.
Gabrielle Lynch helped create this class as a clinical PhD student.
To make sure that it's research-based, because there are a lot of intervention programs out there that aren't research-based. And so with this, we figured that we wanted to make it as effective as possible by including the research background. So there is a situation. You guys are all friends.
UCF calls it bystander training.
You guys need to effectively find ways of communicating using these skills to get that friend help.
The students role play as bystanders.
I'm gonna call 911 because she's not being responsive.
Practicing how to intervene.
Oh yeah, especially being around teenagers and other college students. You never know where or when something can happen.
Meredith Baker is a peer advocate, meaning she is paid by the university to talk to other students about staying healthy.
Do you feel like you're better prepared now?
Yes, definitely able to be more prepared in the event of an emergency if there was someone that was in a situation that they needed help.
Yeah, we're getting results, and so I'm really happy to see it.
Gabrielle says most of these students are influential athletes, RAs, Greek life members, anybody who could tell anyone else about doing something. That's how UCF hopes to eventually reach the entire campus.
You need to calm down. We need to help our friend.
Yeah, and the use of we, too. That's really good.
By starting with these students.
And this training goes hand in hand with something else that UCF is doing. UCF is handing out Narcan, the overdose reversing drug, to all students. Anyone that wants to keep a packet handy just in case. They can pick one up by going to health services here on campus.
For those struggling with addiction, they can often find themselves in and out of jail. But here in Central Florida, solutionaries are working to help people get clean before they get out. Eric Van Aken takes us behind bars in Flagler County, where officers are committed to change.
Welcome to the SMART pod inside the Flagler County Jail.
What's up, you good?
SMART stands for Successful Mental Health Addiction Recovery Treatment.
I was talking to Miss Becky.
This is where inmates with substance abuse and alcohol abuse problems live together and learn together.
You liking the program so far?
With counselors and teachers, all specialists in addiction. The missing piece, though, was detention deputies.
When was the last time you had that?
Themselves trained in addiction. Until today.
Welcome. Come on in, guys.
Every single deputy working inside the Flagler County Jail.
My name is Stephen Samra. I'm a person in long-term recovery.
Is learning to recognize the trauma inmates with addictions have been through.
It doesn't matter how you get the trauma. Trauma's trauma.
So they can also be supportive of the inmates' recovery from addiction.
It can be as simple as just, instead of using the term addict, using the term substance use disorder. So that we help break down some of the most simple, phrases and definitions that have been traditionally used that, immediately have a negative connotation.
And so instead of the deputies potentially working against these inmates recovering, they're now supporting it.
Absolutely, and oftentimes it's inadvertent. They don't even realize that they're being negative, and that's why we provide training so that they understand addiction.
The jail chief tells me the entire idea behind the SMART pod is to get addicts as far along on the road to recovery as possible before they're released, so they don't come back.
But to be totally successful, we have to change a culture in detention facilities like county jails.
And to do that, the sheriff says, to get results together,
Little, you almost out of here?
the entire jail must be part of the solution.
And other jails across Central Florida, we've been telling you, certainly have been progressive when it comes to helping inmates with addictions in jail recover. But this is the first in all of Florida so far to get this type of addiction training specifically for the detention deputies.
Addiction is a complex issue, but if you or someone you know is struggling, News 6 has resources available. You can find them on clickorlando.com. Coming up on Solutionaries, we are talking about safer streets and breaking down what solutionaries are doing to take the danger out of your commute. Welcome back to Solutionaries, a show where we highlight the problems we're facing as a community and the people working to fix them. Today, we're focused on dangerous driving. Vision Zero is a program being used in Orlando and several cities across the country, including San Antonio. Here's more on their effort to make your commute safer.
Wait. Traffic is taking a deadly turn around the nation, and there's no sign it's slowing down. In fact, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the country saw a surge in deadly crashes from 2019 to 2021.
It's tragic to see the numbers going up, and I know they want to say that there's a lot of different factors that go into it. I had a driver who actually pulled out because they just ran the stop sign. Distracted behaviors like that are one of the #1 reasons we have a problem here in San Antonio, if not the #1. You also have intoxicated drivers, that's always an issue. And then you have pedestrians who may not be using crosswalks or actually safely crossing when they can. And I brought you out here because this is an example of some of the engineering that we can do to try to make our roadways safer.
And in 2015, the city adopted a program. It's called Vision Zero.
Vision Zero is a goal of zero. We literally want to see 0 serious injuries and deaths on our city streets and roadways. And folks tell us it's a lofty goal. Yes, it is, but every life matters, as you know. And the folks who use this road, all users, whether they're driving or whether they're on a bike or they're pedestrians, this is your mother, your grandmother, your father, your brother. And we want to make sure they're safe when they're using the road. We come in here and we'll look at some of these places that we consider to be hot spots for crashes, what we call conflicts between pedestrians and bicycles and cars. So then we look at the data a few years later, find out, did we make a difference in that location? And 9 times out of 10, yes.
And it's not just here in San Antonio. Vision Zero has a network of communities around the country with the same goal in mind. Joel Meyer is a transportation manager with Vision Zero in Austin, which the city started in 2015. Meyer says they don't just rely on crash reports from police, but use other sources to determine problem areas.
We've been working with our local EMS department to understand where they're responding to crashes that may not have a police report. And also working with local hospitals as well, understanding the different injury severities that they're seeing with different incidents. One example of that is, working with our public health department to look at hospital data around scooter crashes and, realizing that there's a lot of incidents that go unreported, but a lot of injuries that are happening as well that we don't know about. We've been able to tie all that together through some different data analysis tools that we've developed in-house to help us kind of quickly be able to look at the different factors that go into crashes and these incidents to understand different hotspots, but also different streets that may have risk factors that are similar to other locations.
What is some of that evidence that shows that Vision Zero Austin is working right now?
One example is our high injury roadways initiative, where we looked at 13 street segments in Austin that had a high concentration of severe crashes. We went in with our engineers and looked at different low-cost, quick safety countermeasures that we could implement. Things like changes to traffic signal timing, looking at reducing lane widths and things like that. Things that we could do really quickly. And over the last year or so, we've actually seen a 17% decrease in the number of severe crashes on those roadways where we've made investments. We need to understand the more systemic factors about our street design that are leading to crashes and being able to understand the factors that can prevent those crashes before they happen.
Congress says Vision Zero San Antonio shares the same approach and relies on information from different agencies to solve the problem.
We have a lot of tools at our disposal. It's just finding out which tool fits in which situation, depending on the owner of the road, the possession, the maintenance, and the traffic count, the traffic volume. You look at that stuff and you're able to go, aha, and we love those aha moments because it allows us to go in there and try to mitigate the safety concerns.
Vision Zero Orlando says whether or not a pedestrian survives a crash could come down to how fast a driver is going. At 20 miles per hour, they say 9 out of 10 drivers survive. But at 40 miles per hour, only 1 in 10 survives. Experts say simple changes, including road design, could also influence whether the drivers survive crashes.
2021 was the worst year that we've had for fatalities in the state since 1981, and the second highest since they started collecting data in 1940.
I don't think that most people have an appreciation for the size of the problem that we're dealing with here. If you look at the last pre-pandemic data in 2019, we had 39,000 deaths on our highways or roadways. If you look at that in a different perspective, it's like a fully loaded 737 jet crashing 6 times a week. If that was occurring, there would probably be a lot more attention given to the problem.
And we found about a 2% drop in seatbelt usage since about 2019.
2%, big deal.
Yeah, big deal, except 50 to 60 million one-way trips are made by Texans every day, so that's 1 million or so less people wearing a seatbelt.
Between 2019 and 2021 in Harris County, no seatbelt deaths shot up 64%. During the same period, speed-related deaths were up 54%. Drug and alcohol-related fatal wrecks up 47%.
There seems to be a bit of a casual acceptance of that among the general population.
So what exactly can we do to make our streets safer? Well, being an attentive driver, of course, helps. And researchers at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute are working hard too, trying to minimize the effects of crashes, making them less deadly, less severe. And you likely drive by their innovations every day.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to make the roadside more forgiving. So guardrails, of course, are going to help shield motorists from fixed objects. Bridge rails have a different function where we're trying to keep vehicles on the bridge. We have median barriers that we're using to help prevent cross-median crashes, which can be particularly severe when we have two vehicles crossing the road and hitting head-on. Breakaway support structures, such as signs and luminaire poles, also help prevent more serious crashes when these devices are able to give way during a vehicle impact.
And researchers aren't leaving it up to chance. They test the technology behind various barriers using just about every type of vehicle.
When we perform a test on a guardrail or some other feature, there's several criteria that we're looking at. One is what we would refer to as structural adequacy. We don't want the vehicle to go through or over the barrier. We also want the vehicle to stay upright and stable. We don't want it to roll over, which can result in a serious injury. And then we also are looking at occupant risk. We're looking at the risk of serious injury to the occupants in that vehicle.
The concept of the forgiving roadside was nationally adopted in the 1960s, says Bly. And although crashes can still be deadly, of course, the numbers show technology, education, and vehicle safety have led to improvements.
The penalty for inadvertently leaving the road should not be serious injury or death. And that is the point at which we started actively trying to design for roadside safety and making a conscious effort to save lives and reduce serious injuries that result from roadway departure crashes. And so if you look at the data, maybe at the time that this principle was adopted in the 1960s, 1964, for example, there were approximately 47,000 deaths on our roadways in that particular year. So in terms of 2019 data now, we still have, unfortunately, a very serious problem with 39,000 deaths on our highways.
Bly says the real proof here is in the scale of travel on our roads today. He says in 1964, there were nearly 6 deaths per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. Now, if the standards and death rate remained unchanged, by 2019, Bly says there would have been more than 180,000 deaths per year on Texas highways.
The job is never done. The nature of these crashes that are taking place on the roadway are ever changing and evolving.
If you do get in a crash or even pulled over on the road, there is a new option to help people who are hard of hearing.
When I first walked up to the car, I have someone that's obviously distraught, upset. They're involved in the crash.
Florida Highway Patrol Lieutenant Tara Crescenzi was trying to help an elderly man after a recent crash. But he couldn't understand her instructions.
So when he's having a communication barrier just because he was hard of hearing, I then had to get his attention and speak to him differently. So I was able
to tell right away that he was having a tough time.
Yes, because once I approach the vehicle, he's still inside the car, and I can tell, obviously, because traffic is going by us, it's loud, he's obviously distraught, that we need to get into a safer spot.
It's entirely voluntary, but now under Florida law, that man and anyone else who has a hearing impairment can put that designation on their driver's license or registration. This is the symbol showing that the cardholder is deaf or hard of hearing.
And this is going to be a great tool for us because when we approach the vehicle, if someone points at it on the front of their driver's license, that will key to the officer, oh, this person is going to need resources.
The lieutenant tells me
on the front of the driver's license.
All troopers are trained to recognize a hearing impairment and to react to it. During a traffic stop or crash, troopers will speak slowly, look directly at the driver, guide them to a quieter place, even write instructions on their notepad.
And you carry a notepad with you because of that?
In our pocket, so ready to go just in case we have to communicate.
When you renew your license, all you have to do is check the box to indicate you're deaf or hard of hearing. And thanks for joining us. I'm Lewis Bolden. You can learn more about Solutionaries on clickorlando.com or anytime on News 6 Plus.